She was just the Maid, a label that hid a heart of gold, a mind brimming with untapped potential. But what unfolded next? It was pure, unadulterated melodrama. A soap opera richer and more shocking than any billionaire could concoct. Richard Carter, the city's titan of industry, a man whose name echoed with power, stood paralyzed in the sterile expanse of his marble foyer. His grip loosened, the leather briefcase, a symbol of his empire, slipped from his nerveless fingers, crashing onto the polished stone. The sound reverberated through the mansion, a thunderclap in a kingdom of silence. His mouth gaped, a silent scream trapped within. His eyes widened, reflecting the opulent surroundings in a distorted, horrified mirror. And his heart, it felt like a surgeon had ripped it from his chest, tossed it into a blender, and hit puree. Because there, in his ridiculously ostentatious living room, a space usually reserved for million-dollar deals and champagne toasts, stood Maria, his maid. Maria, in her quiet dignity, was patiently guiding his 8-year-old son, Tommy, through the treacherous terrain of algebraic equations. On a whiteboard, no less, equations, the horror, the betrayal, the sheer, unadulterated audacity. This isn't just a story. It's a descent into the depths of the human heart. It's a tale so outrageous, so utterly implausible, that you need to hear it from the very beginning. Prepare yourselves, because trust me, by the time I'm finished, you'll be clutching your pillows, screaming at your screens, and questioning everything you thought you knew about trust, loyalty, and the dangerous secrets we invite into our homes when we open our doors. Before we plunge into this vortex of secrets and lies, tell me where you're watching from. Drop your city in the comments. Let's see how far this story travels. And while you're at it, smash that like button and subscribe so you never miss another jaw-dropping, life-altering story like this one. Now buckle up. We're just getting started. Richard Carter wasn't just any billionaire. Oh no, he was the billionaire, the alpha and omega of wealth. The man practically owned the city, lock, stock, and barrel. Hotels that scraped the sky, sprawling shopping malls teeming with consumers, cutting-edge tech companies pushing the boundaries of innovation, private jets that crisscrossed the globe at his beck and call. You name it, he probably owned it, had a controlling interest in it, or was poised to acquire it in a hostile takeover. His name alone inspired deference, even fear. His signature could make or break careers, launch empires, or plunge entire industries into ruin. His money, well, let's just say his money had money. It spawned more money in its sleep than most people saw in a lifetime. But beneath the veneer of invincibility, beneath the mountains of wealth and power, Richard harbored a single, crippling vulnerability. His son, Tommy. Tommy was everything to him. After Tommy's mother, Richard's beloved wife Catherine, perished 3 years prior in a devastating car accident, Richard had plunged headfirst into his work, seeking oblivion in the endless grind. He clocked 16-hour days, jetted across continents for fleeting meetings, hammered out billion-dollar deals in sterile boardrooms, while his heart silently screamed in agony. But through it all, he ensured Tommy wanted for nothing. The best schools, naturally. An overflowing toy chest filled with every imaginable gadget and gizmo. A rotating cast of impeccably credentialed nannies. The best of everything except one crucial element. Time. Richard rarely spent quality time with his own son. And that, more than any failed business venture, more than any hostile takeover gone wrong, was his greatest, most gnawing regret. The Carter mansion itself was a gaudy testament to Richard's staggering success. 15 bedrooms, each larger than the average family home. 8 bathrooms, adorned with Italian marble and gold-plated fixtures. A state-of-the-art home theater. An indoor pool shimmering under artificial sunlight. And gardens that stretched as far as the eye could see, meticulously manicured by a team of groundskeepers. But despite all that space, all that luxury, the mansion felt empty, cold, like a beautiful, gilded cage, a prison constructed of marble and gold. Tommy would wander the cavernous halls alone, his small footsteps echoing in rooms too vast for a little boy. He'd eat dinner by himself at a mahogany table designed to seat 20, the silence broken only by the clinking of silverware. He'd labor over his homework in a library filled with leather-bound books that nobody ever read, their gilded spines mocking his solitude. And every night, he'd climb into his enormous bed, clutching his favorite teddy bear, silently hoping that tomorrow, just maybe, tomorrow would be the day his father came home early. But tomorrow, perpetually, never came, until that fateful Wednesday. Enter Maria Rodriguez. Maria was 26 years old, possessing a quiet, understated beauty that radiated from within. Her warm brown eyes, the color of rich earth, sparkled with an innate kindness, an unwavering empathy that could melt even the most hardened hearts. Her smile, genuine and radiant, held the power to disarm the most cynical souls. She hailed from a forgotten corner on the outskirts of the city, a place where dreams went to die, where hope was a luxury most people simply couldn't afford. Poverty clung to the air like a persistent fog, stifling ambition and crushing spirits. But Maria, despite her surroundings, was different. She possessed a fire within, an unyielding determination to rise above her circumstances. She harbored dreams, big dreams. She yearned to be a teacher, to ignite young minds, to shape futures, to make a real, tangible difference in the world. But life, as it so often does, had other, crueler plans. Her father, a hard-working construction worker, fell ill, really sick. Cancer, the insidious kind that gnaws away at your body and decimates your bank account simultaneously. Medical bills piled up like insurmountable mountains, threatening to bury her family under an avalanche of debt. Her mother, a tireless woman who already juggled 3 minimum-wage jobs, worked herself to the bone, but it still wasn't enough to keep their heads above water. Her younger brother, a bright and promising student, was forced to drop out of school to take a dead-end job at a grimy gas station, sacrificing his own future to help the family survive. And Maria, selfless and resolute, did what she had to do. She made the agonizing decision to drop out of college in her final year, just shy of graduation. She swallowed her pride, packed away her dreams like moth-eaten clothes in a dusty attic trunk, and took a job as a maid in the opulent Carter mansion, cleaning toilets and scrubbing floors to keep her family afloat. At first, Maria was just another anonymous face in the endless parade of domestic staff that flitted through Richard Carter's life. The stiff-backed butler barely registered her presence. The temperamental chef couldn't be bothered to remember her name. The other maids, hardened by years of drudgery and disappointment, barely spoke to her, offering only curt nods and weary sighs. She was invisible, a ghost in a uniform, silently performing her duties and fading into the background. But Tommy, bless his observant heart, noticed Maria immediately. It happened on her 3rd day. Maria was meticulously cleaning the library, dusting the endless rows of shelves and organizing the untouched books, when she stumbled upon an old, forgotten math textbook tucked away in a dark corner. Compelled by an irresistible force, she sat down during her lunch break and began to read, completely absorbed in the elegant logic of numbers. Math had always been her favorite subject, her intellectual sanctuary. She marveled at the way numbers interacted, the way complex equations yielded precise solutions, the way everything, no matter how chaotic, made perfect sense if you just approached it from the right angle. In a world that often felt arbitrary and unfair, math was order. Math was peace. "Why are you always reading books?" Tommy's unexpected question startled her. He was peering over her shoulder as she sat in the cramped servants' quarters during her break, devouring that math textbook like it was the most thrilling page-turner in the world. Maria looked up, surprised. "Oh, Master Tommy, I'm so sorry. I didn't see you there. I just like learning. Math is fun." Tommy wrinkled his nose as if he'd just caught a whiff of something particularly foul. "Math is fun? Are you crazy? Math is the worst. My tutor makes me do it for hours, and I hate every single second. He yells at me when I get things wrong. He tells me I'm not trying hard enough. He makes me feel stupid." Maria's heart twisted with empathy. She saw the raw pain in Tommy's eyes, the frustration, the simmering shame. She'd witnessed that same defeated look countless times in her own students back when she was still studying to be a teacher. That heartbreaking look that silently screamed, "I want to understand, but nobody will help me. Nobody cares enough to show me how." Maria smiled softly, her eyes radiating warmth. "That's because your tutor probably makes it boring. But math isn't boring, Tommy. Math is magic. It's everywhere. In the swirling patterns of clouds, in the branching limbs of trees, in the graceful flight of birds, in the harmonious sounds of music, in the very way buildings stand tall and defy gravity. Once you truly understand it, the whole world opens up like a book you can finally read." Tommy stared at her, his brow furrowed in disbelief, as if she just declared that the moon was, in fact, made of aged cheddar. "You're weird," he declared, his voice laced with a mixture of suspicion and intrigue. But there was something else in his tone, too, curiosity. A spark, a flicker of nascent interest, a tiny, fragile flame that Maria recognized immediately because she'd spent years learning how to gently fan those nascent embers into a roaring fire. "Maybe I am weird," Maria conceded with a playful grin. "But weird people see the world differently. And sometimes, Tommy, that's exactly what you need." And that's how it all started. Over the next few weeks, Maria and Tommy forged an unlikely and undeniably touching friendship. Whenever Richard was away on his endless business trips, which, let's face it, was almost always, Maria would spend time with Tommy. Not because she was obligated to, not because anyone had explicitly asked her to, but because she saw a lonely, neglected little boy who desperately needed someone to care. And caring? That was something Maria had always excelled at. She'd help him with his daunting homework assignments, patiently explaining complex concepts in ways that actually made sense to a child's mind. She'd use chocolate chip cookies to illustrate the intricacies of fractions. "Okay, Tommy, if we have 12 delicious cookies, and we eat 3, what fraction of the cookies did we devour? Now, let's actually eat them and see if we were right." She'd draw whimsical pictures to demystify the principles of geometry, transforming abstract shapes into relatable objects. She'd turn learning into a captivating game, a challenging puzzle, a thrilling adventure. And slowly, miraculously, Tommy began to blossom. He started to actually love learning. His grades improved dramatically, silencing his demanding tutor. His confidence soared, erasing the self-doubt that had plagued him for so long. He smiled more. He laughed more, a genuine, unforced sound that hadn't been heard in the Carter mansion for years. He'd run to find Maria after school, bursting with uncontainable excitement to show her his latest test scores. "Look, Maria, look, I got a 95%. My teacher said I'm improving faster than anyone in the class." And Maria would hug him tight, her eyes glistening with unshed tears, overflowing with pride for this remarkable little boy who had been unfairly labeled as stupid, but was, in reality, brimming with untapped brilliance. But Richard, tragically, remained oblivious. He was too busy building his empire, too consumed by his insatiable ambition, too deeply mired in his own grief to notice the subtle, yet profound transformation taking place right under his nose. He'd stumble home late at night, bleary-eyed and exhausted, peck Tommy on the forehead while the boy was already fast asleep, and then slip out of the house before sunrise, leaving his son to face another lonely day. He never saw Maria's quiet, yet powerful influence. He never noticed the remarkable changes in his son's demeanor, the newfound spark in his eyes. He was blind to the miracle unfolding right under his own roof. Blind to the fact that a woman he paid minimum wage to scrub his floors was giving his son something infinitely more priceless than all the money in the world: belief in himself. Until that fateful Wednesday afternoon. Richard had been in Tokyo for a crucial business meeting, negotiating a massive deal that could potentially expand his empire into the lucrative Asian markets. Millions of dollars were on the line. It should have been the crowning achievement of his already illustrious career. But something felt off. He couldn't seem to focus. His mind kept drifting back to Tommy. When was the last time they'd had a real, meaningful conversation? When was the last time he'd genuinely inquired about school, about his friends, about his hopes and dreams? When was the last time he'd tucked Tommy into bed and read him a story? When was the last time he'd simply been a father? The guilt gnawed at him like a ravenous beast, relentlessly chewing through his chest. And so, in a rare moment of impulsive clarity, the kind of clarity that strikes when you realize you're on the verge of losing the only thing that truly matters, Richard abruptly canceled the remainder of his meticulously planned meetings. His business partners were stunned, their carefully constructed power plays crumbling before their eyes. His high-powered lawyers were apoplectic, their meticulously crafted contracts left unsigned. His ever-efficient assistant, accustomed to his unwavering focus, thought he'd finally snapped under the immense pressure. But Richard didn't care. He dismissed their protests with a wave of his hand, boarded his private jet, and flew home early, propelled by an overwhelming desire to reconnect with his son. He wanted to surprise Tommy. He wanted to be there for dinner, to share a meal and a conversation. He wanted, for once, to be present. But when Richard walked through the grand front doors of his mansion at 3 p.m., hours earlier than anyone expected, what he saw made his blood run cold and his carefully constructed world tilt precariously on its axis. There, in the living room, was Maria, his maid, standing confidently in front of a large whiteboard that certainly hadn't been there when he left, teaching his son. Actively, enthusiastically, teaching his son. Tommy sat attentively at the table, pencil clutched tightly in his small hand, his eyes shining with a focused intensity and a genuine, unadulterated joy that Richard hadn't witnessed in years. He was scribbling complex equations into a notebook, his brow furrowed in concentration. Maria was patiently explaining something about fractions, her voice gentle and encouraging, her tone measured and kind, patient in a way Richard had never heard anyone, not even himself, speak to his son before. She wasn't wearing her drab maid's uniform. She was dressed in her own clothes, simple jeans and a plain blouse, her hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. She looked comfortable, at ease, like she belonged there, like this was her home, too. No. The word exploded from Richard's throat, shattering the peaceful atmosphere like a bomb detonating. Both Maria and Tommy jumped, startled, spinning around in shock, their faces paling with a mixture of terror and guilt. "Dad!" Tommy stammered, his eyes wide as saucers, his fleeting moment of happiness evaporating like water on hot pavement. Richard's face was flushed a dangerous shade of red, a crimson hue born of rage and betrayal and wounded pride all violently mixed together. His fists were clenched so tightly that his knuckles had turned bone white. His entire body trembled with suppressed fury. "What is going on here?" Maria immediately stepped back, her hands raised in a gesture of innocence and surrender, as if she were facing down a wild, unpredictable animal. "Mr. Carter, I can explain." "Explain?" Richard roared, storming toward her like a hurricane, like a tsunami, like every destructive force of nature rolled into one angry, heartbroken man. "You're a maid. Your job is to clean, to scrub floors, to dust shelves, not to teach my son. What gives you the right? What gives you the audacity to overstep your position like this?" Tommy stood up, tears already welling in his eyes, his small hands balled into defiant fists. "Dad, stop. Maria was just helping me with—" "Silence!" Richard snapped, his gaze never wavering from Maria, his eyes boring into her like laser beams. "How dare you overstep your boundaries? How dare you act like you're his teacher, his mother, his family? Who do you think you are?" Maria's face flushed with shame and fear, but she held her ground, her chin trembling slightly, but her eyes remaining surprisingly steady. "Mr. Carter, I'm so sorry if I overstepped. Tommy was struggling with his homework, and I wanted to help. That's all. I didn't mean any disrespect. I would never disrespect." Richard laughed bitterly, the sound harsh and broken. "You've crossed a line, Maria, a big line, a line that should never be crossed. You're fired. Pack your things and get out of my house now. I want you gone within the hour. Do you understand me?" The words hung in the air like poison gas, suffocating everyone in the room. Tommy's eyes widened with abject horror. "What? No, Dad. You can't fire Maria. She's the only one who actually cares about me. She's the only one who's here. She's the only one who... The statement hit Richard with the force of a physical blow, like a slap to the face, like a knife twisting in his heart. Like every single one of his failures as a father had been condensed into a single, devastating sentence spoken by his 8-year-old son. What did you just say? Tommy's tears spilled over, streaming down his cheeks in unstoppable rivers. You're never here, Dad. You're always working, always gone, always choosing your stupid meetings over me. Maria is the only one who talks to me, who listens to me, who makes me feel like I matter, who makes me feel like I'm smart, who makes me feel like I'm not alone in this huge, empty house. You can't fire her. You can't. I won't let you. Richard stood there frozen, immobile as a statue, as if time itself had stopped moving. His son's words cut deeper than any business rival's betrayal ever could, deeper than any crushing financial loss, deeper than anything he'd ever felt in his entire life. His carefully constructed facade of invincibility shattered. His heart cracked under the weight of his own neglect. His pride crumbled into dust. His entire worldview, so meticulously curated over decades, threatened to collapse entirely. But his anger, fueled by years of suppressed grief and unacknowledged guilt, was still burning, a wildfire raging out of control. Go to your room, Tommy, Richard said coldly, his voice as frigid as ice. Now. But Dad, I said go to your room. We'll discuss your disrespect later. Tommy sobbed, glaring at his father with a mixture of heartbreak, fury, and a profound disappointment so intense it seemed to age him 10 years and 10 seconds before turning and running up the grand staircase, his footsteps echoing through the silent mansion like a mournful drumbeat of betrayal, like the devastating sound of a cherished relationship irrevocably breaking apart. Richard turned back to Maria, his jaw tight, his entire body rigid with misplaced rage. You have 1 hour to leave. If you're not gone by then, I'll have security escort you out. And don't expect a reference. Maria nodded slowly, her own tears threatening to spill over, her dreams of helping Tommy, of making a real difference in the world, shattering into a million irreparable pieces. I understand, Mr. Carter. I'm truly sorry. I never meant to hurt anyone. I just wanted to help. She turned and walked toward the cramped servants' quarters, her head hung low, her shoulders slumped with defeat, her heart shattered into so many fragments that it would likely take years to piece them all back together. But as Richard stood there alone in that enormous, empty living room, surrounded by unimaginable wealth, unparalleled power, and every material possession a person could possibly desire, he felt nothing. No victory, no relief, no satisfaction, just a hollow, aching emptiness that threatened to swallow him whole. That night, Tommy refused to speak to Richard. He refused to eat dinner, his appetite gone, replaced by a knot of grief in his stomach. He locked himself in his room and cried until he had no tears left, until his eyes were red and swollen, until exhaustion finally dragged him into a fitful, nightmare-filled sleep. And Richard sat alone in his cavernous office, staring blankly at the whiteboard Maria had left behind. The complex equations she had so patiently explained. The playful doodles she had sketched to make learning more engaging. The little smiley faces she'd drawn to encourage Tommy when he was struggling. All tangible evidence of someone who genuinely cared. For the first time in years, Richard felt like a complete and utter failure. Days passed like years, then bled into weeks. Tommy became increasingly quiet, withdrawn. A pale ghost of the happy, vibrant boy he had been slowly transforming into under Maria's gentle guidance. His grades started slipping again, erasing the progress he had made. His tutor, the expensive, credentials-laden academic Richard had hired at great expense, complained that Tommy wasn't paying attention in class, wasn't trying, wasn't responding to any of his meticulously planned lessons. The spark in his eyes, the spark Maria had so skillfully ignited with patience, kindness, and genuine care, was gone. Extinguished, leaving behind only a dull, vacant stare. And Richard finally noticed. Oh, he noticed, all right, because now, finally, he was paying attention. now that it was too late to undo the damage he had caused. One evening, Richard sat down with Tommy at the vast dining table, the polished surface stretching between them like an uncrossable ocean, a physical manifestation of the emotional chasm that had grown between them. "Son, we need to talk." Tommy didn't look up from his plate, listlessly pushing his food around with his fork, his appetite long gone. "About what?" "About Maria." Tommy's fork clattered onto his plate with a jarring sound, like a gunshot shattering the fragile piece. His eyes snapped up, filled with a renewed surge of anger and pain. "You fired her, Dad. There's nothing to talk about. She's gone, just like everyone else who ever cared." Richard sighed, the crushing weight of his mistakes pressing down on him like a physical burden. "I know, and I think I made a mistake. Terrible mistake." Tommy blinked, confusion momentarily replacing the anger on his face. "What?" "I was angry," Richard admitted, his voice softer, more vulnerable than it had been in years. "I was scared. I saw Maria teaching you and I felt replaced, like I'd failed as a father, like she was doing the job I should have been doing, like you didn't need me anymore. And instead of admitting that, instead of facing my own failures, I lashed out. I blamed her, but the truth is she was just being kind. She was helping you. She saw you struggling, and she stepped in because nobody else would. Because I wouldn't, and I punished her for it. I punished her for being the father I wasn't." Tommy's eyes filled with tears again, but this time they were different tears. Confused tears. Hopeful tears. "She was more than kind, Dad. She cared. She actually cared. She made me feel like I mattered, like I was smart, like I could do anything." Richard felt the words stab into his chest like a dagger crafted from guilt. "I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everything. For not being here, for not seeing you, for not being the father you deserved." "Then bring her back," Tommy whispered, his voice small and desperate. Please bring Maria back." Richard nodded slowly, a flicker of determination replacing the despair in his eyes. "I'll try. I promise you, son. I'll try." The next morning, Richard drove to the impoverished side of the city, a place he had never been before, a place his immense wealth and unearned privilege had effectively shielded him from his entire life. The streets were cracked and crumbling, riddled with potholes that threatened to swallow his expensive car whole. The buildings were dilapidated, their facades covered in graffiti, their windows either broken or boarded up. Children played in dirty alleys with makeshift toys fashioned from discarded scraps. Weary people sat on stoops, their faces etched with the indelible lines of hardship. It was a world Richard didn't understand, a world he had actively chosen to ignore, a world he had pretended didn't even exist. But he kept driving, relentlessly following the address Maria had listed on her employment file, his sleek, luxurious car drawing stares of both curiosity and resentment from everyone he passed. When he finally located her apartment, a tiny, run-down building with peeling paint and rusty railings that looked as if they might collapse at any moment, Richard felt a wave of shame wash over him with such intensity that it made him physically ill. This was where Maria came from. This was the life she was desperately trying to escape. This was why she had swallowed her pride and taken a job scrubbing his floors, enduring the indignities and condescension of the wealthy elite. And he had callously destroyed her chance. He had taken away the one thing that could potentially lift her and her family out of poverty. All because of his own bruised ego, because of his own crippling pride. He knocked on the door, his hand trembling slightly. A moment later, Maria opened it, her eyes widening in shock, a fleeting expression of fear flickering across her face before she quickly composed herself. "Mr. Carter." "Maria," Richard said quietly, his voice heavy with a regret he had never allowed himself to feel before. "Can we talk, please?" She hesitated, uncertainty etched all over her face, then nodded slowly, stepping aside to allow him entry into the cramped, humble apartment. The space was immaculately clean, but sparsely furnished. A single, worn couch, its fabric faded and threadbare. A small, rickety table surrounded by mismatched chairs. A makeshift bookshelf constructed from salvaged lumber, lined with a collection of second-hand textbooks. Everything about the apartment screamed of sacrifice, struggle, and dreams perpetually deferred. "I came to apologize," Richard began, his voice thick with an emotion he had been suppressing for far too long. "I was wrong. So wrong. You didn't deserve to be fired. You didn't deserve to be treated like that. You were helping my son, and I was too proud to admit that I had failed him. Too scared to face the truth that a woman I paid minimum wage was a better parent than I was. I took out my guilt and frustration on you, and that was unforgivable." Maria's eyes softened, tears welling at the corners. "Mr. Carter, you didn't fail Tommy. You're just hurting. You lost your wife. You've been drowning in grief. I understand. I really do." "No," Richard said firmly, shaking his head. "That's no excuse. Plenty of people lose loved ones and still show up for their children. Tommy needed me and I wasn't there. But you were. You gave him something I couldn't. Time, patience, and genuine kindness. You made him feel seen. You made him feel valued. And instead of thanking you, instead of recognizing the incredible gift you were giving us, I punished you. I'm ashamed. Deeply, truly ashamed." Tears streamed freely down Maria's cheeks now, and she covered her mouth with her hands, overwhelmed by emotions she couldn't quite name. "I just wanted to help. He's such a sweet boy. So smart. So kind. He just needed someone to believe in him." "I know," Richard said softly, his voice filled with a newfound humility. "And that's why I'm here." Richard took a deep breath, steeling himself. "I want to offer you your job back, but not as a maid. As Tommy's private tutor, full-time with a real salary. A salary that accurately reflects your worth, a salary that can help your family, a salary that acknowledges the profound impact you've had on my son." Maria's jaw dropped, her hands flying to her mouth in disbelief. "What? You have a gift, Maria. A real gift. Tommy lights up when he's learning from you. He trusts you. He respects you. And frankly, you're better at reaching him than any expensive tutor with a wall of degrees I've hired. So please come back. Not for me. For Tommy. He needs you. And maybe, just maybe, I need to learn from you too about what really matters in life." Maria's tears spilled over uncontrollably now, and she covered her face with her hands, overcome by a tidal wave of emotions. Shock, disbelief, gratitude, joy, and a profound sense of relief. I don't know what to say. This is everything I've ever dreamed of. Teaching, making a difference, and having enough money to help my family." "Say yes," Richard said softly, hopefully. "Please say yes." Maria nodded through her tears, her voice choked with emotion and joy and relief. "Yes, I'll come back. For Tommy. And thank you. Thank you for giving me this chance." And so, Maria returned to the Carter mansion, not as a lowly maid, but as a respected teacher, a trusted mentor, and a shining beacon of hope. She became Tommy's tutor, his confidant, his friend, his champion. And slowly, beautifully, Tommy came back to life. His grades soared beyond anyone's wildest expectations. His confidence bloomed like flowers in springtime. His laughter echoed through the mansion once more, chasing away years of emptiness and silence. But more than that, Richard changed, too. He started coming home earlier, canceling meetings that suddenly seemed far less important. He started having dinner with Tommy every night, genuinely listening as his son talked about school, about his friends, about his hopes and dreams. He started reading bedtime stories, something he hadn't done since Catherine's death. He started being present, actively engaged, a real father. And in the process, he realized something shocking, something he never expected, something that completely upended his carefully ordered world. He had started to fall in love with Maria. Not simply because she was beautiful, though she certainly was. Not solely because she was kind and compassionate, though those qualities were undeniable. But because she had done something no one else had ever been able to do. She had reminded him what it truly meant to care, to be present, to love unconditionally, to see people for who they really were, not for what they could do for you. 1 year later, Richard stood in that same living room where he had once in a fit of blind rage and wounded pride, unjustly fired Maria. But this time he wasn't angry. He was nervous, terrified actually, because he was about to ask Maria a question, a life-altering question that would change everything. A question he never thought he'd have the courage to ask again after Catherine died. "Maria," he said, his voice trembling like a teenager on a first date, "you've given Tommy. He's given me his life back. You've given me my son back. But it goes deeper than that, Maria. You've rekindled a flame within me, a hope I thought long extinguished. Hope that I can be a better man, a more present father. Hope that the capacity for love, which I believed had withered away, can blossom again. Hope that even the most shattered pieces of a life can be painstakingly pieced back together with enough care and devotion. And so, with a heart overflowing with gratitude and a vulnerability I haven't felt in years, I have to ask you a question that holds the key to my future, to Tommy's future, to our future. Would you consider becoming a permanent part of our family? Not just as Tommy's tutor, not merely as an employee diligently performing her duties, but as something far more profound, far more meaningful. Would you agree to be my wife, to stand beside me as we navigate life's challenges together? Would you, Maria, be Tommy's mother, offering him the unwavering love and guidance he so desperately craves? Maria's eyes widened in disbelief, transforming into glistening pools of astonishment. Tears, shimmering like diamonds, cascaded down her cheeks, a torrential downpour of emotion reflecting the depth of her surprise and joy. And then, after what felt like an eternity, a smile, radiant and luminous, bloomed across her face. A smile capable of illuminating the darkest corners of the world. A smile that could thaw the most frozen of hearts. In a voice barely above a whisper, choked with emotion, she breathed, "Yes, 1,000 times yes, Richard." The wedding, held in the intimate setting of Richard's sprawling garden, was a celebration of understated elegance and heartfelt emotion. Tommy, beaming with uncontainable joy, proudly carried the rings, finally witnessing the realization of the family he had always yearned for. As Richard, his eyes filled with adoration, gently kissed his bride beneath a floral canopy bursting with vibrant colors, a profound realization washed over him. He understood, with crystal clarity, that life's true treasures aren't found within sterile boardrooms or meticulously balanced bank accounts. They reside within the embrace of those who genuinely care, those who consistently show up, those who possess the remarkable ability to reawaken our humanity when we've tragically lost our way. And Maria, she became more than just a wife and a stepmother. She embodied everything pure and good in the world. She was living proof that simple acts of kindness can irrevocably alter the course of lives, that unconditional love has the power to heal even the deepest wounds, that education can unlock potential and transform futures. She was a reminder that sometimes, the person you need most is the one you almost carelessly let slip away, the one you almost irreparably damaged because you were too blinded by pride to recognize their inherent value. So, here's the question I pose to you, dear viewer. Do you believe Richard made the right decision in bringing Maria back into his and Tommy's lives? Do you have faith in the power of second chances? Do you genuinely believe that people possess the capacity for profound and lasting change? Share your thoughts and opinions in the comments section below because I'm genuinely curious to hear your perspectives. And if this story resonated with you on a deep, emotional level, if it stirred your heart, brought tears to your eyes, made you laugh, evoked anger, or even tempted you to hurl your phone across the room in a fit of passion, then don't hesitate. Smash that subscribe button for the Emotional Stories channel because we're committed to bringing you even more captivating tales filled with drama, tears, heartbreak, and unbelievably inspiring narratives. Don't miss out on the opportunity to experience these powerful stories. Hit that notification bell, subscribe now, and become a cherished member of our ever-growing family of story lovers.